Hi, it's me, JD, and welcome to my new craft room. Just kidding. If you guys have been watching this channel a while, then you probably just noticed that I moved from that corner to this corner. Like, this is the corner with the window on it, which is right over there. The big bookshelf is in another part of the room, and my desk is now over here. So the positives, I get a lot of sunlight, and a lot more natural light. The negative, I have a little bit less space, which is fine. In my personal life, my husband is going back to school, and he needed more room for, his work and his studies. So I was like, all right, I guess marriage is a partnership. So we just had to rearrange some things in our bedroom to make, some space for him while still having some kind of space for me. So I am literally in a corner now, literally. But let the record show that nobody puts JD in a corner unless there's absolutely no other choice. So now that I'm looking at this on camera, I definitely see a need to cover up the light switches. That's not attractive, don't look. And I probably need some shelves right here, huh? Yeah. Anyway, you're like, she's rambling. So in this video, I wanted to use a very common craft supply, and that craft supply is buttons. We have such a large collection of buttons in my sewing kit that it's become outrageous. Some of them are buttons from actual clothes or slacks or jackets that we think we need, but we never actually end up using, so we just throw it in the sewing kit. And some of them are actual craft buttons made for different projects. So this video is going to be a little different in that I'm not showing you a new technique with buttons. I'm just presenting a plethora of ideas for button paper crafts you could do. So this video will go back and forth between my voiceover and some happy crafty music. Hopefully by the end you'll get some inspiration for ideas to use up those buttons in your crafty stash. Sit back, subscribe, and enjoy these ideas for handmade greeting cards using buttons. Those mismatch of buttons certainly don't have to go to waste. You can incorporate them into your handmade cards and paper crafts. If you don't have a lot of buttons, or the buttons aren't in the color scheme that you want, you can certainly ask around to see if anyone has some spare buttons, or you can purchase buttons from the craft store or online. They are a super affordable craft supply in comparison to others, and it's just fun because it creates this really whimsical handmade card. It also adds some texture to your paper crafts, and they're just user-friendly. I found that the best way to adhere them to crafts is with some really strong liquid glue. You can also use hot glue if it's a really heavy button or a different kind of surface, like a wooden surface. That you'll need, the hot glue, the really strong stuff. But if you're just doing handmade cards like I am, this kind of liquid adhesive works fine. I even tested it to make sure that that button is not going anywhere. I even messed around with the button to see if I could pick it off, and it's going to take some effort to try to take this button off. So what I'm trying to say is that the liquid glue, the quality liquid glue, should hold your buttons. For all of these button crafts, I highly recommend you lay out your buttons first, just to see, what button works where and what color schemes you like to go with before you glue anything down. And another tip is to take a picture of your layout before you glue anything, just in case, you sneeze, you cough, a big gust comes in and blows your buttons away. Ask me how I know that. From there, it's just a matter of gluing your buttons to your surface, and it's much better and easier to glue the flat side of your button rather than the raised edge. For my balloon of buttons, I'm going to just draw in a simple bow and a balloon string. And this is a really simple but really cute card to make for someone special. Another variation on buttons for balloons is to use the buttons as individual balloons and make a button balloon bouquet of them. So I have adhered my balloons down. Now I'm taking a ruler and my pen to just make some straight lines to resemble all of the balloon strings gathered into a bouquet. Instead of a bouquet of balloons, you can also have the buttons represent just singular floating balloons. And it's the same thing. You want to make sure that your buttons are really secure if you're using large ones like I am, and then just free draw your balloon strings and bows. A fun variation on this would be to have the button balloons be hot air balloons. So once you've got all your balloons attached, you just cut out some pieces of burlap to really add that fun texture, and those pieces of burlap are supposed to represent like the basket of the hot air balloons, and then you just draw in like the strings to connect the basket to the balloon, and it's really cute card. These handmade card ideas would be great for a baby shower card, or a birthday card, or a just because card. From balloons to flowers. Just pick out some fun buttons to assemble your flower. I think the easiest flower to do would probably be this daisy I'm making, where the 5 buttons surrounding the center are about the same size and width, and then I have a cute little button in the middle, and then I added some green buttons to represent the leaves. You can also make tiny little flowers too. I think these flowers look adorable since I have buttons of the somewhat same size and color, and it just looks like a little garden of button flowers I have going on. And like the other card, I'm just free drawing the stem of each flower. And then going in with buttons for the leaves. The right kinds of buttons can represent any type of food you can think of. For this first card, I'm making a birthday cake out of buttons, and I have different colors for each layer. And it probably took about 5 minutes to glue all this down, which is not too bad at all, but it makes for a real wow factor because it's all buttons. If you have even less time for that, if you're making a bunch of these kinds of cards, then another way to create a birthday cake of buttons is to simply cut out a piece of cardstock to represent your cake. And then I also cut out strips of different colored cardstock to represent the candles. And then the buttons are going to represent the little flames on each candle. I must have been missing summer because I made a popsicle card. I was like, I really am craving a creamsicle right now, and it's not appropriate to have one when it's like 40 degrees outside. So I'll just make one out of buttons. And I already had the popsicle stick laying around. We do some popsicle stick crafts here with my kids. And then I just picked out all of the orange and coral colored buttons and just started gluing. An even simpler variation of this ice cream popsicle card is to have each button represent a scoop of ice cream. And you just glue down the buttons in whatever way you want and just draw your little cone underneath each button. Buttons can also be used to create all different types of animals. So I was kind of inspired by my son's preschool class, and they did butterfly little crafts with large cotton balls, and I was like, oh well, I can scale it down and make it to a greeting card by using some buttons. As you saw, I just drew the body in with a pen, adhere some buttons for the wings, and now I'll go in and draw some antennas. In this next card, I was inspired by something I saw on Pinterest. Unfortunately, the link led to nowhere. But if it was your card, I would love to give you credit. But the big pink buttons represent the bodies of little piggies, which I thought was adorable. My youngest child's favorite book right now is A Very Hungry Caterpillar, and for this card I thought I could make a caterpillar or perhaps a centipede with all of these buttons. I just glued them in a line going down the card front and then just drew in its tiny little feet and little antenna, and then I thought it'd be fun to write "You're one in a million." These button crafts would be great for holiday themed cards as well. Here I made a Valentine's themed card with a big red heart in the middle. Then I made a rainbow card that's perfect for spring or Easter. Another great card for spring is this little Easter basket card, and the buttons represent little Easter eggs. I used the rest of that burlap to make that basket. You can also make a very patriotic card for Independence Day or Veterans Day, or just to thank a service member. Buttons can also be used for pumpkins to represent Halloween or Thanksgiving. They can also make great Christmas trees. You can also make this into a wreath, or just use different colored buttons for ornaments. That'd be really cute too. And a simple and easy card would be just using the buttons for a snowman for your winter themed cards. I hope I gave you some inspiration for your next button craft. Let me know what button craft ideas you have in mind down in the comments, and I will catch you in the next video.